Hey peeps, that we're doing well. So it's been a short while since I've done a video, and there's been so much going on that I could talk about, and I think I'm going to give a bit of personal perspective to you guys on the romanticised ideals that we have. Now, I had a bit of a air quotes ding dong with an associate last week. Something they said on social media, and this individual then chose the path of trying to shame me, silly sausage, for my age and air quotes lack of family. By that I mean kids, missus, that sort of thing, right? And at the same time that was sort of happening, because I've got to admit, I've had a bit of a tough week with regards where I'm going and what the fuck I'm doing with my life, which is normal. That's pretty much how I live my life, right? I don't know really what I'm doing from one day to the next. I've got my routine, but with age comes experience, and this is a sort of funny thing, especially for this other individual that decided that they were going to shame me based on my age and that, right? I've seen a lot of shit in my time, and I've been through a lot of shit as well. And now, obviously I'm getting older. Sadly we don't get younger. I think I've stayed the same mentally, I think, for the most part. I've gained more wisdom as I've... I don't think even matured is the right word, but, but as time has passed and experience has been gained, as has wisdom and knowledge, I was sort of thinking back to what this kid was saying, because he's a kid by comparison, right? He's in that situation where he's still living at home, and he was having a bitch and a moan about not having any money, and it's like, well, you're not paying anything out, so what's your fucking problem, right? But his problem is in fact subjective to him. And this isn't about me trying to do some sort of a backlash retort video about him and his life and what I think of it. It doesn't matter. Now, with him having said that, one of my other mates, one of my actual friends, you know, he's got missus, kids and all of that. And he was sort of saying about... obviously he does a day's work, he comes home, he's knackered, he's fucked. You know, he comes back and the kids are not screaming at him in a bad way necessarily, but he's coming home to more of that, right? And this is definitely a two-way street, and whereas sometimes I look at my life and, you know, he's sort of like, he might view my life as like, well, I've got not a great deal of responsibilities, you know, I've got this life of air quotes freedom. You know, if I want to get up and go out, I can. I don't have to worry about babysitters. I don't have to worry about have the kids been fed or anything like that. I haven't got any of that to think about. It doesn't, you know, I just get up and go and do it. Whilst at the same time, from my perspective, I look at that, at his life, and I'm like, no, well, what you've actually got is an achievement. I mean, okay. As is now commonplace, a couple of his kids are from a previous relationship. Obviously they're no longer together, and he sees them quite regularly and spends time with them and everything else, which I think is a beautiful thing, right? It's a nice thing. A lot of guys don't get that right, I suppose, or that maybe it's a privilege, but not in that sort of a sense. And when I sort of thought about this the other day, it's like, well, we're both looking at each other's lives through rose-tinted glasses for the one thing that we don't have. You know, in that aspect, it's like, sure, if I want to go out now, and I'll say I want to go to the coast, like I say, I can just get my shit and go. That's it. Nothing, as long as there's money in the bank and there's fuel in the tank, I ain't got nothing to worry about. His life is obviously somewhat different. You know, he's got 3 or 4 kids to think about, money to think about, and preparation to think about. And this has been that thing where I've often sat back and thought, well, with my life as it is, I mean, look, I'm going to be real, right? In terms of, let's talk about relationships and stuff like that. I don't think I'd be wrong in thinking this, in whereas, say if I was to start dating someone now, and they'd look at my life and like, you know, how I live it, like what time I get up in the morning, for argument's sake, what time I go to bed. Like last night, I went out to get fuel last night on the bike. It only took me 2.5 hours. Of course, I just carried on going. You know, I was just like, you know what, fuel up, and just go out. Fuck it, doesn't matter. I've got nothing to worry about here. I can just go out, you know, and do whatever. And that is exactly what I did. Now that seems somewhat free and easy, right? And not in that sort of sense, but you know what I mean. It's like it's just an on the whim decision. It's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going out. Then I came back at whatever time, crashed out at whatever time in the morning, and woke up, you know, way beyond. I mean, by the time I woke up today, the birds were out and singing, and there was people out and about doing things, and you know, whatever. And then I dragged my ass, when I got myself together, I dragged my ass downstairs and I carried out a repair on one of the bikes, and that all went well. Took me a little while, but it is what it is, you know, these things just take time, but this is it. Time to do these things. Now, to some guys, this lifestyle seems really good, and I suppose it is, you know, and to some women, maybe it seems really good. I think it would be subjective to what they are like, how old they are, because this is a thing, a lot of women now, you know, they're sort of thinking about the potential for having kids and all this, and obviously their biological clock is ticking, whereas mine is not. I mean, you know, and the same goes for a lot of guys. Unless you've got like a health implication, you haven't got really a great deal to worry about, or maybe you just don't want kids, which is fine as well. But all these things do sort of play a part. And like I say, I think a lot of the time, having been in that scenario where I was raising a child that wasn't mine, or children as the case may be, much as I like that sort of family life, and maybe I look at it with a bit of I don't know what the word is. The only way I can sort of explain it is maybe it's because they weren't my kids, right? Maybe that is a big game changer for people. You know, it's like that thing we all say, if you've been in like a relationship with someone that's got kids from another partner, whereas you say you treat them as your own. Well, if I'm to be totally honest, I think that would be a very difficult thing to do unless you've actually had kids of your own in the first place. I think other than that, you'd probably only be treating them as a glorified friend. You know, and I don't mean that in any sort of disrespect. I'm just saying it's like they're not your flesh and blood. So whereas, yes, you might care for them a great deal, I think with that biology being a thing, if they were yours, you'd care for them a whole lot more. Maybe, I don't know. But that's kind of that. But then, when you look at the state of dating and relationships today, and like myself, I mean, obviously I've dated quite a few single mums over the years, and it's always the same backstory. You know, the relationship didn't work out, obviously, right, that's what I mean. And you could argue, well, it was their fault because, or the others because, and yada yada, right? But that is also off-putting to me, because I've been in a relationship with one particular woman, And she was actually quite happy to skip the country. She was quite happy to leave this country and go and live in another country, taking the child with her, or what would have been with us, with no real thought or consideration for the father, despite the fact that the father was actually playing a good key role in the kid's life. The father actually loved the kid. The father wanted to spend as much time as much free time as he possibly could with the kid. Then, like I say, when we sort of put relationships into perspective like that, and it just sort of makes you think, well, is it just an ideal? You know, is this ideal of a relationship? I mean, you know, you got to spend a great deal of time with someone to actually get to know them, to see what they're really like, to see what they're really about, and more importantly, to see, you know, when. And again, this is only something you find out at the end of a relationship, is how maybe two-faced or maybe ruthless in some cases, how ruthless the other person is. You know, like I said, that one particular chick, she was quite happy to leave the country and screw the dad, fuck him. That was her attitude, that was her mentality. Oh, well, if he wanted to see the kid, he'd have to make the effort. It's like, really? And again, this isn't the first thing that, you know, the first time that's been spoken about, or that it's happened. But it is a problem, and that in itself affects how I view relationships. You know, like in terms of air quotes. I mean, I say romantic relationships. If I'm honest, I think romance is dead. Like I've said before, the amount of women that I've met that literally just use guys, it's not that they appreciate you for the person that you are. It's just what you can do for them, which to me isn't it's not a relationship. That's just, you know, that's just a parasite pretty much, and you're the host. Right? I'm just saying. But it still doesn't take away that thing where I've often thought, like, you know, because I don't think you can I don't think I would get away with living the lifestyle that I have now if I had a family, because I wouldn't be able to just get up and go out and do what I wanted. I wouldn't. I'd have a responsibility to that family. So yeah, it's sort of an interesting, like I say, it's been a really interesting week, and like I say, I think oftentimes we as people look at each other and see our lives through rose-tinted glasses. Like I say, a lot of my friends sort of might look at me and think, you know, if they've got family, kids and that, you know, it's like, oh, I've got this free life and everything, and I can get up and do what I want, and yeah, I suppose that is a plus. At the same time, I don't have that family love. And again, maybe that in itself is a farce. Maybe that's just something we create in our heads when we get carried away with the fantasy of what we think we have, you know, or what we would really most like to have. But yeah, it's been an interesting one. This is just something I wanted to talk to you guys about. Maybe get some extra thoughts on this one from you guys, you know. Because I do think we do that a lot. Is like I say, looking at other people's lives through rose-tinted glasses. You know, like most people think it's easy being me. It's like, fuck me, you don't know the struggles. you don't know the fucking mental gymnastics that goes on in my own head. Like when it comes to so many different things on this, it's like, yeah. It's like, but it's almost like they want to be me. It's like, bro, you fucking don't. You don't. It's hard work, because you never really know what you want. When you've got it, you're not sure if you still want it or not, or you're not sure. You know, all this shit comes into play, and it's, you know, it's difficult. And like I say, when you've been betrayed as well by lovers and all of this, it's like, well, friends and lovers alike, make no mistake about it. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Anyway, look, thoughts, comments and opinions, feel free to jump down to the next one. Stay cool, stay free, stay out of trouble. Peace out.